أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم من همزه ونفخه ونفثه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى. رب زدني علما يا معلم آدم علمنا يا مفهم سليمان فهمنا يا معلم آدم علمنا يا مفهم سليمان فهمنا يا معلم آدم علمنا ويا مفهم سليمان فهمنا. اللهم فقهنا في الدين وعلمنا التاويل وذكرنا ما نسينا وعلمنا ما جهلنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وبارك لنا في علمنا بجاه وعلمك ما لم تكن تعلم وكان فضل الله عليك عظيما بجاه من أرسلته رحمة للعالمين. وبعد، المستمعين الأفاضل، الطلاب الأعزاء، الإخوان والأخوات، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
كيف أحوالكم وكيف صحتكم؟ أتمنى أن كل على ما يرام من الصحة والخير بإذن الله. Now, so we are going to continue our discussion from where we stopped at in the last week discussion. I believe we stopped on page 24. That is what I believe. I'm not sure whether I'm right or not. Did we stop on this page 24?
Yes, Ustad.
Okay, shukran jazilan. Before we go, I have a very brief announcement regarding our group assignment. So our group assignment, I have thought of something, maybe perhaps we do it in a very different way. Since this is DUSU UniSZA, and you have to be familiar with the text. So by that, I have come to opinion that you all translate. You just focus on translation of your areas of presentation into English. The translation from Arabic into English, I think that will be better, and that will give you more familiarization to the text. Because when you translate, you have to read. When you read, you have to internalize the meaning. Then you translate. So I come to the opinion that our group assignments should be based on the translation of the text. So by this, I implore all of the groups to just focus on the translation, on translating the portion that we have allocated to each group, a translation into English. Then I'm going to check the translation and Based on that, we are going to award the mark, inshallah. So that is the brief announcement that I have. So in this, that means we might not necessarily have live presentation. So the translation in word format will be enough for your group activity, for your group assignment. I think that will relieve you also of some other burdens, inshallah. All right. We go back to Al-Ghazali, his biographical account, التحول المفاجئ من الشهرة إلى العزلة. التحول المفاجئ التحول المفاجئ من الشهرة إلى العزلة. التحول بمعنى التغير، تغيير الحال، من تغيير شيء من حال إلى حال آخر. التحول يعني التغير. المفاجئ التي جاءت صدفة ليست مخططة. الشهرة يعني هذا مشهور، من الشهرة الشهير. من الشهرة إلى العزلة. العزلة الغياب من الناس، الغياب من أعين الناس، والاختفاء من الناس، أو الفرار من أعمال الاجتماعية، من حركات الاجتماعية. This is al-uzla. So at-tahawul means change, okay, diversion. Al-mufaji, sudden that is unplanned, okay, sudden diversion, sudden change. At-tahawul mufaji, sudden change, min ash-shuhrati, from popularity, ash-shuhrati al-Ghazaliyya, because he was popular among people. He became famous scholar, he became important, he became a public figure, he became someone that everyone wants to listen to. So, and he liked that, he was enjoying that, but something happened that made him to decide, without plan, without discussing with anyone, without any pre-preparation, to change from his popularity to loneliness, ila al-uzlati, to loneliness. A sudden change from popularity to seclusion. 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 التحول المفاجئ, the sudden change, the unplanned change, the emergency change, diversion of Al-Ghazali from popularity to seclusion. So seclusion is a condition whereby you isolate yourself. We also call it isolation, whereby you isolate yourself from people, whereby you isolate yourself from public faces, from public eyes, from public activities, whereby you withdraw totally and completely from all public engagement. Then you withdraw to somewhere where no one knows you and where no one can see you. So that is al-uzla. So this is mostly enjoyed by Sufi. Okay, so this is one aspect of Sufism. So that scholar, a Sufi, should be able to engage in al-i'tizal, isolation or seclusion from people. So most especially during his spiritual engagement with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is so what do we expect to have under this title is we want to know what made Al-Ghazali left to leave his position and go into isolation. What happened to him and how did it happen? Many things happen. You remember the very important quotation that we quoted in the last week class that Al-Ghazali and his junior brother Ahmad, they did not study for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the beginning. So the reason why they went to Madrasah al-Nizamiyah to study was basically to survive, for survival. Okay. Because the property that their father left behind for them to be taken care of by their father's friend has been exhausted. So there was no mean for them to survive other than going to the Bondo to join the Madrasa and Nizamiya there. So that was the basic intention, to survive. And from survival to popularity, from popularity to famosity. So from being famous to being selfish and wants to allocate everything to himself. So he was enjoying high position and connection and relationship with people of high calibers. وكان يتمتع بأرباب المناصب العليا. فهذا كان الغزالي لم يرد التنزيل أو التنزل من هذه الأماكن العليا. So he did not plan ever to come down from this position, and he would do anything to maintain that position. لكن he says by himself, طلبنا العلم لغير الله فأبى العلم أن يكون إلا لله. So we studied for not the sake of Allah, not for the sake of Allah, but ilmu itself, the knowledge itself that we got, it refuses to serve other than Allah. Meaning at the end, we were forced, particularly Al-Ghazali was speaking, I was forced to use what I have for the sake of Allah. Now, when he was enjoying all this high position, Sha'Allahu an yurji'ahu ila as-tariq as-sawi, ila sawa'i as-sirati. لأن الله كأن الله لم يرد أن يمت الغزالي على نيته الفاسدة فأراد به كما قال من أراد الله به خيرا يفقهه في الدين ففقهه الله بالعزلة يعني علمه العزلة وهلمه ويسر الطريق له إلى العزلة لكن الشيخ الغزالي لم يرى فرصة في ذلك فأبى الاعتزال فاختار الشهرة. Allah in his decision, in his mashia, in his will, in his desire, he wished that Al-Ghazali returned back to the right path by using and renewing his intention, And he paved a lot of ways for him, and he made it easy for him to go back to Allah. But Al-Ghazali, due to the popularity and the positions that he was enjoying at that time, he did not realize the the door of guidance that Allah had opened to him. So he continued. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala see that, no, if I left him like that, there is possibility that an yamuta bila tawbah. So he could die and end his life without repentance, without tawbah. And if he dies without tawbah on this niyyah, then everything that he has done will become haba'an manthura. Will become wasted, will become nothing, will become useless. So Allah planned something. He sent sickness to him. فَنَعَقَدَ اللَّهُ لِسَانَهُ عَنِ النُّطْقِ فَنَعَقَدَ اللَّهُ لِسَانَهُ عَنِ النُّطْقِ. So he started by having some discomfort. Al-Mudarrat, discomfort. Al-Mudarrat fi batnihi. Started by having stomach discomfort. Stomach, we can call it al-butuna. Al-butuna, stomach ache, stomach disorder. So there was discomfort in the stomach. So starting from there, it developed to lack of appetite. Lack of appetite. He could not, from the stomach disorder, the sickness grew to become loss of appetite. He could not eat. He could not drink. He did not that he didn't want, but he couldn't. Just couldn't. So then the whole body was almost becoming paralyzing. So, but still at that time, he could still talk. He could still speak to people. So people will still come to him and he will still give lecture. Then Allah saw that there's one thing that he needed to take from him to make him realize that he was not doing the right thing. And that was the lisan. That is the lisan, the tongue, the nutku. So that was the time where his vocal system was affected. So when his vocal system was affected, أعيا الأطباء كلهم عن علاج ما به حتى ولم يعرفوا ما سبب المرض وكيف السبيل إلى علاجه. So the medics, the physicians of the Seljuk al-Mulki, al-Seljukiya, so the king's physicians, the king's medics, they all tried to save him, but they did not understand the disease, the type of disease, the type of ailment that was disturbing him. So if they tried everything to diagnose him, but they couldn't find anything because it was not physical, it was spiritual. So that was when the physicians and the medics, they gave up their hope and they thought, he was going to die. So because there was no way they could cure him. So at this, Al-Ghazali realized it was not an ordinary disease. It was a signal for him. But still, ذات يوم كان حاول تلبية الطلاب إليه. So one night, he tried for one last time, to respond to people, students, who came to him for advice for lecture, he tried all he could. لكن لم يستطع أن يتحرك لسانه. But he could not move his tongue. كان يتكلم ويعرف أنه يتكلم ويسمع نطقه بنفسه لكن الناس لم يسمعوا. So he was speaking and he himself could hear and listen to his own speech. But people in front of him could not listen. They couldn't hear him. They didn't hear anything from him. So وعند ذلك عرف الغزالي أن الأمر ليس بأمر عادي. So that was when Al-Ghazali knew and understood that that was not normal. فمن ذلك نوى الاعتزال عن الشهرة، الاعتزال عن الأموال، الاعتزال عن الأسرة، الاعتزال عن الأولاد، الاعتزال عن العيال، الاعتزال عن الجماعة، الاعتزال عن حركات الظاهرية، الاعتزال عن كل شيء يتعلق بالجماعة. That was when he decided to isolate himself, to seclude himself, to leave everything behind. So فنوى al-uzlata, so he decided, he made intention of leaving the Nizamiya, but he didn't want to tell people where he was going, because if he told people where he was going, they could still follow him or go to visit him. So by this, he told people, أظهر الذهاب إلى الحج لكن نوى مكانا غير الحج. So he told people, particularly the king, okay, Nizam al-Mulki, that he was going to perform Hajj. But in himself, he knew he was not going to Makkah. He was not going to Makkah. So he had another place in mind, but so that people would not understand where he was going, he told them he was going to Hajj. So that was how he went into seclusion. And in the seclusion, أول ما قام به الغزالي تصحيح نيته. The first thing that Al-Ghazali tried to do was the renewal, تجديد نيته لله. So the renewal of his iman, the renewal of his intention, okay, lillahi ta'ala. So that was that is what we are going to read throughout this At-Tahawul al-Mafaji min ash-Shura ila al-Uzla. Okay? Now, where he went to, the masjid that he went to, we are going to see through our reading, inshallah. Now, بينما كان الإمام الغزالي في أوج الشهرة، أوج الشهرة يعني في وسط الشهرة، في أعلى المنصب والمظهر العظيم والضيوع الصيت من الصوت الصيت الكلام الحديث المناقشة، والضيوع يعني علو الصيت، علو الصوت يعني رفعة الصوت. okay. بينما كان في أعلى الشهرة والمكان العظيم والمنزل العظيم وأرفع الصوت، إذا بالحال يتحول فجأة. While Imam Al-Ghazali was at the peak, P-E-A-K, peak while he was at the peak of popularity, وَالْمَظْهَرِ الْعَظِيمِ, while he was at the highest position, وَذُيُوعِ الصَّيْتِ, while his voice was the only voice that everyone wanted to hear. At that time, الْحَالُ يَتَحَوَّلُ فُجْهَةً. The situation suddenly changed. There was a sudden change of situation, of condition. ففي منتصف عام 488 هجرية حصل ذلك التحول المفاجئ في حياة الإمام الغزالي. At the middle of year 488 Hijri, that التحول المفاجئ, that sudden change occurred في حياة الإمام الغزالي. وانقلب الأمر إلى حال آخر, and the situation changed to another condition. قد اختار الإمام الغزالي العزلة. Imam al-Ghazali had only two choices: the choice of whether to die with the disease, يعني إما أن يموت بالمرض على الشهرة وإما أن يعتزل من الشهرة فيحيا حياة طيبة. So he was in between two choices only: either to maintain his position and die on it, or to descend from that position and gain freedom. فاختار الإمام الغزالي العزلة. So he chose to go on seclusion, isolation. Now, there are two words here: seclusion and isolation. Isolation and seclusion are the same thing, but there is a very slight difference in between the two. Seclusion could happen by force, okay, by force, which does not come by wish of the person. Okay, so when it happens by being forced, maybe for example, someone who has been imprisoned, okay, الشخص المسجون, someone who is imprisoned, and decided to have some amalul khair when he's in prison, such as Imam Ibn Taymiyyah and so on and so forth, Ibn al-Wahhab, that forms the Wahhabiyya nowadays. Okay, so both of them, what they went for was seclusion. Seclusion because they were forced to go into hidden. They were imprisoned by the king or the government of the time. So when you are forced to go out of the public, to withdraw your popularity, that is seclusion. So in the case of Al-Ghazali, it was both seclusion and isolation. Now, isolation is when you willingly want to do it, like the way the Sufi wants to do it. So when you willingly want to do it, so that is what we call isolation. Another example that I can give here to seclusion and isolation: red meat, the consuming of red meat. Okay, eating red meat like lembu, kambing, and so on and so forth, and eating anything that you wish. That is normal. But if you have a health condition, an health issue, health-related issue, and the doctors ask you to go vegetarian without eating and consuming any meat or any red meat or something like that, so they are secluding you from eating that. So it is not by your wish. All right? But in the case that you willingly want to leave all those things by yourself because you want to go on spiritual journey with God, Because in Sufism, there are some inspirational prayers that you do, and when you are engaging in that spiritual prayer, supplication, you have to live without eating meat or eating anything that is tasteful, no sugar, no malahi, no eating salt, no eating things that are carbohydrate. What you only remain on is fruit and water. So in the case of the Sufis that do it for the spiritual purposes, we call it an isolation. So, but in the case of those who were forced to leave it because of their health issue by the medical doctors, that is seclusion. So now, in the case of Imam Al-Ghazali, what happened? It was both seclusion and isolation. It was both seclusion. Seclusion because he was forced to withdraw because he couldn't manage it. He couldn't help it. He was sick. He could not be taken care of by the medics. No one understood his ailment, his disease. So he was forced to withdraw. So he went into seclusion. He went into seclusion. And during the seclusion, he realized that he needed, the seclusion, and then that seclusion became isolation. Because during the seclusion, he became all right, he regained his speech, he regains his strength, the stomach disorder was gone, so he could just simply go back to the school and to the public, but he said no, he was not going to go back. So then the seclusion became isolation. Are we here? Is that understood? So I just wanted us to understand the slight difference between seclusion and isolation. Although we have the same word for it in Sufism, al-uzla. Okay. Also, you can also use al-i'tikaf, but i'tikaf has a very different meaning and interpretation to al-uzla. Okay. Another word that we can use for al-uzla in Arabic is al-khalwa. Khalwa. Okay, don't be confused. It's not the khalwa of when you are with al-muharim. Okay, no, not that khalwa. Okay, that khalwa, you are with somebody that you are not supposed to be with at a hidden place that people cannot see. So that is not the khalwa we are talking about here. The khalwa we are talking about is also a kind of al-uzla from people. Al-khalwa means when you are alone, loneliness, loneliness. Okay, L-O-N-E-L-I-N-E-S-S, loneliness. Okay, when you want to be alone, you may not necessarily go out of the public, you will not necessarily withdraw yourself from the society, but you want to be alone for a while. Okay, you want to be alone for a while, so that is, we can call that khalwa. Okay, so these three words, we can use them interchangeably: al-uzla, al-khalwa, and al-i'tikaf. Okay, so that is, I hope that is understood. Now, Imam Al-Ghazali chose seclusion. وَتَرَكَ التَّدْرِيسَ فِي الْمَدْرَسَةِ النِّظَامِيَّةِ. So he resigned from teaching position at the Nizamiya school. وَسَلَكَ طَرِيقَ الزُّهْدِ وَالْإِنْقِطَاعِ عَنْ مُخَالَطَةِ النَّاسِ. وَسَلَكَ طَرِيقَ الزُّهْدِ. So he started the path of asceticism. So he preferred asceticism. Asceticism, ASCETICISM. asceticism. Okay, asceticism. So spirituality. So he preferred spirituality. وَالْإِنْقِطَاعِ عَنْ مُخَالَطَةِ النَّاسِ. So he cut his tie from people. He withdrew from seeing people. فَكَانَ يَبْدُو عَلَيْهِ أَنَّهُ مَرِيضٌ عَلِيلٌ بِعِلَّةٍ مَجْهُولَةٍ. Okay, people didn't understand the reason, okay, actually, but it seemed, فَكَانَ يَبْدُو عَلَيْهِ, it seemed, S-E-E-M-E-D, seemed, it seemed, it appeared, okay, that is, we think that, okay, we think the reason why he did that was أَنَّهُ مَرِيضٌ عَلِيلٌ بِعِلَّةٍ مَجْهُولَةٍ. Because he was ill. He was ill. I-L-L, ill. He was ill. Alilun. He was sick. Sick. S-I-C-K. He was sick in Latin. In Latin, with a sickness. Majhula, that was unknown, with an unknown sickness. Meaning he was afflicted with an unknown disease. And this illness and disease and this sickness affected his tongue. Okay, shahiyatahu. Shahiyya is appetite, and it lowered his appetite. His energy was lost. فَلَا يَسْتَطِيعُ الْأَكْلَ. He couldn't eat. وَيَئِسَ أَتْبَاؤُهُ مِنْ شِفَائِهِ. And his medics, M-E-D-I-C-S, medics, physicians, his doctors, his medical doctors, يَئِسُوا مِنْ شِفَائِهِ. They gave up. Okay, la tayasu min rohillah. Okay, la tayasu, ya'isa. Okay, so they gave up min shifaihi, from treating him. They said, "Oh, we gave up. We cannot treat you. You're going to die." Wafi awakhir sana. You remember this happened in the middle of year 488. So, but towards the end of year 488. خرج من بغداد مظهرا العزم على السفر إلى مكة المكرمة للحج وهو يسر في نفسه السفر إلى الشام. Okay. Towards the end of 488, خرج من بغداد. He left Baghdad, the city of Baghdad. You remember Baghdad was the capital city of Islam at that time. So Muzihiran al-Azma, so he told people, he announced, okay, Muzihiran al-Azma, an-Niyya. Okay, so he pretended, ala safari ila Makkah al-Mukarramata lil-Hajj. He pretended that he was going to Makkah for the purpose of Hajj. وَهُوَ يُسِرُّ فِي نَفْسِهِ. يُسِرُّ يعني يُخْفِي فِي نَفْسِهِ. Okay, فَهُوَ يُسِرُّ فِي نَفْسِهِ السَّفَرَ إِلَى الشَّامِ. But inside himself, he knew that he was not going to Makkah. He knew he was going to Sham. Sham, Palestine. Bilad Sham. So he knew he was going towards Palestine. وَهَا هُوَ الْإِمَامُ الْغَزَالِي يَتَحَدَّثُ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ. So in his own record, so he says, okay, while narrating this ordeal, okay, when it was يَتَحَدَّثُ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ, when he was talking about his ordeal, O-R-D-E-A-L, A-L, ordeal, O-R-D-E-A-L, ordeal, his problem, his issue, what happened to him. So while talking about himself, he says, فَلَمْ أَزَلْ أَتَرَدَّدُ بَيْنَ تَجَاذُبِ شَهَوَاتِ الدُّنْيَا ودواعي الآخرة قريبا من 6 أشهر أولها رجب سنة 488 وفي هذا الشهر جاوز الأمر حد الاختيار إلى حد الاضطرار إذ قفل الله على لساني حتى انتقل عن التدريس فكنت أجاهد نفسي أن أدرس يوما واحدا تطييبا لقلوب الناس الذين يترددون إلي فلا ينطق لساني بكلمة واحدة ولا أستطيعها البتة حتى حورثت عقلة اللسان هذه حزنا في القلب وقطع الأطباء طمعهم في علاجي ثم أحسست بعجزي وسقط بالكلية اختياري التجأت إلى الله تعالى التجاء المضطر الذي لا حيلة له فأجابني الذي يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه وسهل على قلبي الإعراض عن الجاه والمال والأولاد والأصحاب وأظهرت العزم على الخروج إلى مكة وأنا أدبر في نفسي السفر إلى الشام حذرا من أن يطلع الخليفة وجملة الأصحاب على عزمي على المقام في الشام فتلطفت في الخروج من بغداد على عزمي أن لا أعود إليها ففارقت بغداد وفرقت ما كان معي من المال ولم أدخر إلا قدر الكفاف وقوت الأطفال. So this is the record, the personal confession of Al-Ghazali. The personal confession of Al-Ghazali in his own word. He says, فَلَمْ أَزَلْ أَتَرَدَّدُ. أتردد يعني أتخير أطلب الخيار يعني لا يعني أشك لا أدري أختار الشهرة أو أختار العزلة. فلم أزل أتردد. I was confused. Okay, I was confused بين تجاذب الشهوات الدنيا, whether to choose the worldly attraction, worldly affection, material life. Okay, بين تجاذب الشهوات الدنيا. I was confused. I was thinking. I was trying to see whether to maintain my position, whether to stay with the material life that I was living, or dawa'i al-akhirah, or whether to choose the call of akhirah, of the hereafter, meaning whether to listen to God's call. So this continued, this taraddud, this al-ikhtiyar, this taraddud continued min sittati ashhur, for about 6 months. Okay, this continued for about 6 months. By that time, he had been feeling the discomfort of the stomach. So all this continued for about 6 months, starting from Rajab of 488. So in Rajab of this, in Rajab of 488, جاوز الأمر حد الاختيار إلى حد الاضطرار. Al-amru, my condition, my situation, جاوز حد الاختيار, was beyond choice. Okay, in Rajab of 488, so the situation became so worse that it was no more a choice. It became al-idtirar. It became compulsory. It became a must. It became necessity. It was no more a choice for me. I had no more choice other than to leave shahwat al-dunya and to choose dawa'i al-akhirah. What happened? At that time, qafalallahu ala lisani, Allah tied my tongue. Qafalallahu, you know what is al-kuflu? Al-kuflu or al-kufla is the padlock that you use to lock your gate. That is kufla. Okay, so it was like ja'alallahu al-kufla ala lisani. Allah padlocked his tongue, held his tongue, hatta i'taqala an at-tadrisi, until it could not teach anymore. You see, he was still okay. He was feeling fine within himself. But when he speaks, people will not hear. People could not hear him. He knew he was speaking, and he could hear himself speak, but people will not hear. So al-qafalallahu ala lisani hatta intaqala an at-tadris. Allah tied my tongue until it could not engage in teaching. So one day, okay, one last time, kuntu hujaidu nafsi, I was trying all my effort. Hujahidu, I was striving. I was trying an udarrisa yawman wahidan, just to teach one last time, or one last day, one last time. I was trying to, okay, let me teach for this, let me try for the last time. Tatyiban liqulubin nasi, in order to answer the call of people, in order to sweeten the heart of people, in order to please tatyiban, to please people, alladhina yataraddaduna ilayya, who were with me, who came to me, who wanted tadris, so that I could please people. Okay, you see, not tatyiban lillah, tatyiban liqulubin nas. So to please people, I tried for one last time. Fala yantiqu lisani bi kalimatin wahidatin. So my tongue could not even utter a single word. Wala astati'uha albatta, and I couldn't at all. I couldn't. I tried all I could, but I couldn't. So, due to the lack of speech, the inability to talk, this uqlatul lisan, awrathat, okay, hazanan fil qalbi. Okay, uqlatul lisan, awrathat hasanan fil qalbi. What is the meaning of awrathat? Sababat, okay, sababat min as-sabab, sabab al-asbab. Okay, sababat uqlatul lisan hazanan fil qalbi. هذه عقلة اللسان. This tongue, the disease of the tongue, this tying of the tongue, the deprivation of the tongue, sababat hazanan fil qalbi, caused what do we call hazan? Sadness. It caused sadness in my heart. Meaning to say, this inability to speak made me sad. It saddened my heart. وَقَطَعَ الْأَطِبَّاءُ طَمُعَهُمْ مُحَاوَلَتَهُمْ يعني محاولتهم. Okay. قَطَعَ الْأَطِبَّاءُ مُحَاوَلَتَهُمْ فِي عِلَاجِ. Then the medics قَطَعُوا وَقَفُوا. They stopped their attempt, their interest, their or their trial to heal me, to treat me. They stopped it because they couldn't. ثم لما أحسست بعجزي. So by this, when I understood my weakness, لما أحسست بعجزي, when I understood that I was weak, meaning when I understood that there was nothing I could do, وسقط بالكلية اختياري, when I was left with no other option. Okay, سقط بالكلية يعني كلية جميعا وسقط الاختيار جميعا. So when all my choices were lost, when there was no more choice for me, التجأت إلى الله تعالى. I رجعت يعني التجأت يعني رجعت إلى الله تعالى. I returned back to Allah, the most gracious. التجاء المضطر, the return of someone who was forced. Okay, there was no other condition, there was no other choice. التجاء المضطر, a compulsory return. I repented to Allah. I tawbah to Allah. Tawbat al-mudtar. Compulsorily. Okay. So the tawbah of the person, of one, alladhi la hilata lahu, who had no other choice. Okay. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Hila. Okay. التجاء المضطر, التجأت إلى الله تعالى التجاء المضطر الذي لا حيلة له. I had to return to Allah just like one who is powerless. لا حيلة له, who is powerless, clueless. فأجابني الذي يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه. سبحان الله. فالذي يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه أجابني. Because that was what Allah wanted him to do. Allah wanted him to come back to him. So that was the reason why he made him sick. That was the reason why he tied his lisan. He wanted him to realize his mistake and come back quickly. So when he returned back, immediately, أَجَابَهُ اللَّهُ الَّذِي يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ. So the one, الَّذِي يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ, who answers the prayer of the one who is in difficult situation, إِذَا دَعَاهُ, whenever he calls. Okay, the one who answers everyone who calls him when in need. Ajabani, answered me, responded to me. So by that, Sahala ala qalbi al-i'rada anil jahi. So Allah, alladhi yujibu al-mutarra idha dahahu, Sahala ala qalbi. He made it easy for me. Okay, He made it easy for me, for my heart, to be al-i'rad, to be diverted from al-jah, popularity, al-mal, wealth, al-awlad, family, al-ashab, friends. Allah made it easy for me. After I returned to Him, after I purified my intention, after I renewed my intention to Him, so He made it easy for me to live, to be diverted, okay, to return, okay, to live alone, to isolate, to leave all the popularity, all the position, my money, all my properties, my children, my family, my friends, associates. So what azhartul azm ala al-khuruj ila Makkah. So I azhartul azm, I showed people, okay, I told people, okay, I informed people, okay, ala al-khuruj ila Makkah, that I was going to Makkah. Wa ana udabbiru fi nafsi, but inside myself, okay, dabbartu, okay, I had the intention in myself, as-safaru ila Shami, to go back to Palestine. Why did I do this? I did it because hadran min an yutalli al-khalifatu. I didn't want to do this, okay, meaning to say, hadran, I did this to prevent the Khalifa, okay, Nizam al-Mulk. I did this to prevent Khalifa and Yutali'a from knowing where I was going, from knowing my direction. Otherwise, if he knew my direction, he would prepare a place for me where I would live there. And I didn't want that, and people will also keep disturbing me. So that was why I did not want him to know. I did that in order to stop the Khalifa, okay, in order to deceive the Khalifa, wa jumlatul ashab, and my companions and my associates and my friends and my colleagues, okay, and yutali'a ala azmi ala al-maqam bisham, so that they would not know my desire to go to Sham. Fatalattaftu fil khuruji min Baghdadi, talattaftu fil khuruji, yani fil khuruji min Baghdad. Fi here also could also mean inda al-khuruji min Baghdad. When I was going out of Baghdad, when I was exiting Baghdad, okay, when I came out of Baghdad, talattaftu, okay, I looked back, I turned back. When I came out of Baghdad, at the border of Baghdad, that is what it means. Okay, at the border of Baghdad, talattaftu, I looked back to look at Baghdad all over again. to see, for example, like someone who is going out of Malaysia, going to somewhere, US, UK, anywhere to study or anything. And while he was in the plane, sitting beside the window of the plane, so looking back, looking down, looking everywhere, seeing the whole country, okay, almost the same thing. What are you going to feel? MashaAllah, I'm leaving this country. I'm leaving this place. But in the case of Al-Ghazali, he looked back for the last time, for one last time, with the intention that, okay, what was the intention? Ala azmi, ala niyya, an la a'uda ilayha. So he looked back for the last time to see Baghdad with the intention that he would never return to Baghdad again. He would never come back to Baghdad again. فَفَارَقْتُ بَغْدَادَ, I left Baghdad. وَفَارَقْتُ مَا كَانَ مَعِي مِنَ الْمَالِ, I left all my properties. Al-malu is anything that you own. Al-mal, cars, houses, landed properties, movable and immovable properties, money in the bank, assets, everything that you own is under al-mal. And that is why the Quran says, al-malu wal-banun zinatul hayatud dunya. Okay, so these two are the ornaments of the world of life. So he said, فَرَبْتُ مَا كَانَ مَعِي مِنَ الْمَالِ, I left everything that I had worked for, everything that he has gained through this su'unniyah, he left them behind. وَلَمْ أَدَّخِرْ إِلَّا قَدْرَ الْكَفَّارِ وَقُوتَ الْأَطْفَالِ. In one account, it was reported that he distributed all he had before he left Baghdad. Give to orphanage home, give to Baytul Hikmah, give to Khazinatul Islamiyah, and he only left some things, little things for his children. وَلَمْ أَدَّخِرْ إِلَّا قَدْرَ الْكَفَّافِ وَقُوتِ الْأَطْفَالِ. And he didn't leave anything for children except some things that will survive them. Okay, so Wakad is Tanaba. So that was this is the record, the report and the confession of Al-Ghazali himself. So what do we get from this confession and this narration of Al-Ghazali? There are many lessons that we can learn, but let me tell you only two. Number one is that when Allah wants you, when Allah loves you, He goes to any length to make you do what He wants. When Allah loves you and He wants you for Himself, He would force you and do everything to make sure that you come back to realize and do what He wants. He will pave the way easily sometimes, but if you do not want to listen easily, and he will make it compulsory. That is lesson number one. Man arada Allahu bihi khayran yufaqihuhu fid-din. So for him to faqqahaka fid-din, there will be a lot of things that he will want you to leave behind. That's number one. Lesson number two. Man taraka shay'an lillahi an tariqihi haraman awadahu Allahu ilayhi an tariqihi halalan. I repeat, man taraka shay'an lillahi an tariqihi haraman a'wadahu Allahu ilayhi an tariqihi halalan. Anyone who rejects anything or deprives himself of any opportunity because that opportunity or that thing is haram, is in prohibition state. He leaves that because of Allah, for the purpose of fearing Allah. Allah will Allah will give him same thing, an tariqihi halal, in an halal way. So Al-Ghazali left everything because of su'u because of poor intention, because of ill intention that he had at the beginning. And he thought, oh, these are the sababul marad. These are the reasons why I could not go back to God. So he left all of them. But later, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala awadahu. Allah gave him back in multi-folds, in many folds, more than what he left. I'm not sure whether we are here. So these are two lessons that two of the lessons. There are many lessons actually. Okay, maybe I should add another lesson. Number 3. When you want to do anything good for yourself, personally, between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do not tell people, do not inform people. Because if you inform people of what you want to do, you might see from people who will discourage you. Okay, so when you want to do things for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His sake, do not announce it to people that you want to do it. For a good example, you are rich. Allah makes you rich. Okay, and you intend on giving students scholarship. That is a very good intention to do. You don't have to announce to people. You don't have to publicize it. You don't have to put it on social media that you want to do this. No. Go to a university, go to a college, go to a school where you want to do that. So just do what you want to do. Otherwise, if you inform people, if you tell your colleagues, your associates, they may tell you, no, the time is difficult nowadays. You cannot do that. Government will suspect you. Government will focus on you. People will target you on this and that. Then you will leave what you want to do. So Al-Ghazali, when he wanted to go on seclusion, so the reason why he did not tell people is well known. So he didn't want discouragement from people. So he didn't want distraction from people. He didn't want disturbance from people. So otherwise, he could have just tell Nizam al-Mulk and his associates that they will see, this is where I'm going. But he didn't tell them because he was afraid. He feared for what? For the discouragement that he could get from them. So that is a third lesson. There are many lessons that we can get from the self-confession of Al-Ghazali. Now, we read on. We are on page 25 or 26. Okay. وقد استناب أخاه أحمد في التدريس بنظامية بغداد. When he was leaving, when he was resigning from Nizamiya, istanaba akhahu, from Niyaba. Okay, istakhlafa akhahu. So he put his junior brother, okay, Ahmad, okay, he put him as a deputy. He replaced himself with his brother Ahmad fi tadris, to continue teaching in Nizamiya. So ودخل دمشق في بداية سنة 489 هجرية. So he left Baghdad at the end of 488. You know, the way at that time it was not, there was no car like we could go in one day, or no plane that could take us there in hours. It took time. So he arrived at Damascus at the beginning of year 489. So instead of going to anyone, he didn't go to any palace, he didn't go to any people, he didn't go to any place. Rather, he went to the mosque, okay, the one mosque in Damascus. And when he went there, he went mu'takifan fi manaratihi al-Gharibiyya. Manara is the minaret, M-I-N-A-R-E-T, minaret. Minaret is a secluded part of a masjid where people seldom go or visit. Okay, we can call it the high place where they put the star and the moon. But in those days, they will have it covered. So he went directly to Damascus Mosque, mu'takifan, in loneliness, maintaining loneliness, isolation in one of the secluded part of the world, of the western part of the mosque. And not only staying there, mughliqan babaha ala nafsihi. When he entered into the manara, in order not to give people any sense of suspicion that someone was there, he locked himself inside the manara. Locked himself. وفي نفس السنة المذكورة, so the same year 489, ذهب للحج والعمرة وزيارة الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم. That was a year after he left Baghdad. So he went for Hajj and Umrah and to visit the Qabr Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So after performing Hajj and Umrah and Ziyarah, عاد إلى دمشق واعتكف بالمنارة الغربية من الجامع الأموي. So he returned back to Damascus, okay, and instead of going back to the same masjid that he was before, Damascus Mosque, so he went to another mosque, and that was Al-Jami al-Umawi, the Umawi Mosque, Masjid al-Umawi, Umawiya. Okay, so intakafa bil manarat al-Garbiyya min al-Jami al-Umawi. So he went, when he returned to Damascus, he went on seclusion again at the minaret, the western minaret of the Umawi Mosque. So واتخذها محلا يعني مكانا لإقامته وعبادته وتأليفه. So he chose that place as a place that he will live. That was where he lived, and that was where he prayed. That was where he made his Ramadan. وتأليفه, and that was the place where he started writing. And in fact, that was where he wrote his Ihya Ulumuddin. واختار أن يعيش عيشة التقشف عيشة التقشف difficult life, unbalanced life. عيشة شديدة اختار أن يعيش عيشة التقشف. He preferred to live a difficult life. And that was why he did not discover his place of living to anyone. And that was why he did not mingle much with people so that they would not realize him. He lived a he trained himself with Hayatul Koshafa, with a very harsh life. وَيَحْيَا حَيَاةَ الزُّهْدِ وَالْوَرَعِ. So he lived the life of a zuhdi, a contented life. يَلْبَسُ الثِّيَابَ الْخَشِنَةَ. Subhanallah. Subhanallah amma yushrikun. Allah. Imagine someone who was knowledgeable, who knew everything, who understood everything, who had everything, who was so popular, so famous. Subhanallah, left everything that he has acquired and living a life of a nonentity, living the life of someone who had nothing, living the life of someone who knew nothing, living the life of someone who had no family. That was Imam Al-Ghazali. Yalbasu thiyab al-khashna. Imagine us nowadays. What do we know? What do we have? We are too proud of ourselves. Even though we know that وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. Even though we know that we know nothing, we still proud of our ignorance. How much do we have? We are too quick to arrogate power to ourselves. People left everything behind just for the sake of Allah. And we want everything for the sake of ourselves. هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون. And we want us to place us in the same rank, in the same position of those people. تلك أمة قد خلت لها ما كسبت ولكم ما كسبتم ولا تسألون عما كانوا يعملون. We have to purify our intention, brothers and sisters, fellow students. We have to purify our intention. What is the intention of coming together? What is the intention of teaching? What is the intention of learning? What is the intention of studying? What do we aim to do with this? Are we doing it just to acquire material substance? Or we want to do it, we are doing it lillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless Imam Al-Ghazali and all our Imams who have experienced a lot of things in order for us to live a good life to them. Imam Al-Ghazali كان يلبس الثياب الخشنة. You know the thiyab al-khashana, clothes that are very thick clothes. You know, thick clothes that will not tear on time, that will not wear out on time. Clothes that are not noticed by anyone. Clothes that are, we can call it rag clothes, rag, R-A-G. Used clothes. Used clothes. ويقلل مطعمه ومشربه, and he reduced his food and drink. يقلل. He did not eat much. He only ate what would suffice him to stay alive, not living, not eating to his contentment. ويروض نفسه, يروض الروض من الرياضة, رياضة النفس. يروض نفسه. He was training himself. The nafsu wanted to eat much, but he deprived him, the nafs, of eating. The nafsu wants to drink everything that people are drinking. Imam Al-Ghazali deprived himself of all this drink. The nafsu wanted to dress in famous clothes, new clothes, but Imam Al-Ghazali trained and deprived himself from all this. The nafsu wanted to live in big houses, in mansions. He trained himself and deprived him from all this. The nafsu wanted people to hear him out, wanted to go out to people, to enjoy people's accolade. But Imam Al-Ghazali deprived himself of all this popularity. وَيَحْمِلُهَا عَلَى الْمُجَاهَدَاتِ فِي الْعِبَادَاتِ. Rather, he directed himself عَلَى الْمُجَاهَدَاتِ, towards effort, putting much effort fil ibadat, in the worship of Allah, wal amali salihat, and righteous duties and acts, ila an la nalahu sa'baha, until when he was very sure that the difficulty of his mind has been lana has been simplified, has become lenient, until when itself surrendered to him. وفي تلك الأيام بدأت في تأليف كتابه العظيم. So after training undergoing all this training, spiritual training, riyado to nafsiyya, al-badaniyya, fil ibadah, after undergoing all this, then he started writing that great book, UniSZA. Imam al-Haddad, rahimahullah, while praising Ihya Ulumuddin, says, وَبِوَضْعِهِ الْإِحْيَاءُ فَكَفَيَا لَهُ وَبِوَضْعِهِ الْإِحْيَاءِ فَكَفَيَا لَهُ مِنْ جَامِعٍ وَكَمِثْلِهِ لَمْ يُوضَعُ. وَبِوَضْعِهِ الْإِحْيَاء, يعني وَبِكِتَابَتِهِ الْإِحْيَاء, فاق أقرانه ومعاصريه فيا له من جامع فيا له من كتاب عظيم كمثل هذا الجامع وكمثل هذا الكتاب كمثل الإحياء لم يؤدع لم يكتب. By writing al-Ihya وبوضعه الإحياء, by writing, by establishing, by putting down إحياء العلوم فاق الغزالي أقرانه. Imam Ghazali has became winner, okay, has overpowered all his contemporaries. فَيَا لَهُ مِنْ جَامِعٍ. What a great book, what a great compilation is Ihya Ulumuddin. وَكَمِثْلِهِ لَمْ يُودَعُ لَمْ يُكْتَبْ يعني لَمْ يُكْتَبْ مِثْلُهُ قَطْ. Apart from the Quran and the hadith of the Prophet, no book has ever been written that is as great as Ihya Ulumuddin. وكان يكثر الجلوس في زاوية الشيخ نصر المقدسي بالجامع الأموي. Most of the time كان يكثر الجلوس, most of the time he used to sit down في زاوية الشيخ نصر المقدسي, at the zawiya, at the circle of Sheikh Nasr al-Maqdisi in Umayyad Jamia. But people did not know him. He did not make himself known. He did not announce to people who he was. He used to attend the zawiya, the halaqah, let's say. MashaAllah. Great people going into isolation and seclusion, and we low people, weak people, we pretending as if we are high. What a contradiction of life. So وأخذ يصنف المصنفات القيمة النافعة. So he started writing great books and publications that are benefit to people nowadays. The greatest of them, of course, is Ihya Ulumuddin, and also he wrote Al-Munqidhu min ad-Dalali. That is another book. He also wrote Tahafutul Falasifa. Okay, he also wrote Al-Maqsadul Asna. He also wrote Al-Iqtisadu fil I'tiqad. And of course, he also wrote this book, Bidayatul Hidayah. And he also wrote Risala Ayyuhal Walad. He also wrote Kitab al-Arba'in. So this Kitab al-Arba'in is considered as a summary to Ihya Ulumuddin, as a summary. He wrote many books. He wrote many books. Okay, he also wrote Al-Manhul, okay, Al-Manhul fi Ihya Ulumuddin. Okay. وغير ذلك من الكتب المختصرة such as الأربعين وغيرها من الرسائل. وبقي على هذه الحالة مقدار 10 سنين. So he was there at Jami' al-Umawi at Damascus for about 10 years. كما ذكر ذلك في كتابه المنقذ من الضلال, as he mentioned this in his own book, المنقذ من الضلال. Al-Munqidhu min ad-Dalal is the deliverance from error. the deliverance from error. Okay, I told you in the last week class, if you want to, there is a translation of that was done by Professor Abu Layla. Okay, Professor Abu Layla, I'm not sure what he is now, but at that time, he was the dean of the Faculty of Languages and Translation at Jamia Al-Azhar, at Azhar University in Medina Nasr. So he translated this Al-Munqidh min Ad-Dalal and made a comment on it. So the title is The Deliverance from Error. The deliverance, Al-Munqidh from Mina Ad-Dalal error. So if you can look, it is available online also. You can check it. وقد قضى تلك المدة في دمشق. Okay, he spent all this time in Damascus. وكانت أنزلة الإمام الغزالي مفاجأة كبرى لعلماء عصره. So the isolation and seclusion of Imam al-Ghazali was a great surprise to his contemporaries. They were surprised. They didn't know he could do that. الذين شاهدوا وعرفوا منزلته العظيمة. Most especially when people came to know him, because he used to attend the Zawiya halaqah with people. So when people came to know that he was Imam al-Ghazali, they were greatly surprised. They were shocked. Okay, الذين شاهدوا وعرفوا منزلته العظيمة. Those who knew him and understood his great position. حيث بلغ القمة في المكانة والشهرة والجاء والزعامة. So because he was already at the highest position, he reached the topmost level, the saturation, the peak of position, popularity, okay, famous, and leadership. فصاروا يؤولون السبب. So everyone started projecting a reason. Oh, maybe because of this, maybe because of that, maybe because of that. So they did not know. They started speculating. وَيَقُولُونَ إِنَّهُ شَيْءٌ سَمَاوِيٌّ. Some of them say, no, it was an heavenly direction. شَيْءٌ سَمَاوِيٌّ. I mean, that is, the order is from Allah. It is an heavenly revelation. It is an heavenly direction for him. It has to do with spirituality. وَلَيْسَ لَهُ سَبَبٌ إِلَّا عَيْنٌ أَصَابَتْ لِمُسْلِمِينَ فِيهِ. And some people said, no, the reason why he went into seclusion was because of عَيْنٌ أَصَابَتْهُ مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Because of attack, spiritual attack that Muslim gave him. Because people were envying him. People didn't like him to be in that position. So because of spiritual attack, but they didn't know exactly the cause. Okay, now we explained this, but we're going to read this. So this paragraph we already explained it, but we're going to read it. ويبين الإمام الغزالي ذلك في كتابه. Okay, so because Imam al-Ghazali knew people would speculate, people would say rumor things about him, so he clearly explained this in his own way in Al-Munqidh min Ad-Dalal. He says, تفكرت في نيتي في التدريس. I thought about my intention of studying, about my intention of going to Madrasat al-Nizamiyya. تفكرت في نيتي. I checked my intention, because النية قبل كل شيء. The first hadith of Arba'in al-Nawiyya says, إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى ومن كانت هجرته إلى الله ورسوله فهجرته إلى الله ورسوله ومن كانت هجرته للدنيا يصيبها أو لامرأة ينكحها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه حديث صحيح متفق عليه. ورده Imam Bukhari wa Muslim. So he said that I checked my intention. فَإِذَا هِيَ غَيْرُ خَالِصَةٌ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ. And I found out that here, يعني نيتي, my intention, I found out that غَيْرُ خَالِصَةٌ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ. I found out, I realized that it was not purely lillah. It was not purely lillah. Okay? بل باعثها ومحركها طلب الجاء وانتشار الصيت. بل باعثها, the major reason, okay, the major reason for my intention, for my tadris, ومحركها, the movement, okay, what do we call it? So I forgot that word. I wanted to remember that word. Motivation. Okay, motivation. باعثها ومحركها طلب الإجابة. What motivates me? My motivation was طلب الإجابة. Seeking for popularity. وانتشار الصيت. And wanting my voice to be heard, wanting to be famous. When I realized this, تَيَقَّنْتُ أَنِّي عَلَى شَفَا جُرُفٍ هَارٍ. So I realized that I was moving towards hellfire. I was moving on the bank side, on the river bank of the hell. فَلَمْ أَزَلْ أَتَفَكَّرُ أصمم العزم على الخروج من بغداد ومفارقة تلك الأهوال يوما وأؤجل العزم يوما. So فلم أزل أتردد ولم أتردد. So I was confused. Sometime أتفكر, I thought, okay, sometimes I thought of وَأُصَمِّمُ الْأَزْمَ, and I decided, I made up my mind to خُرُوج من Baghdad, to get out of Baghdad, to leave Baghdad, وَمُفَارَقَةُ تِلْكَ الْأَحْوَالُ يَوْمًا, and to leave that situation, the popular position, the popularity. I was in between. Sometimes I think of leaving it, and some other time, uajilul azma. Some other time I say, no, it's not necessary, no problem. I'm going to be okay. Usawwifu. Yani uajilu yani usawwifu. Sawfa akhruju. Yeah, that is the meaning of uajilu. Usawwifu. Sometimes I will think of going out of Baghdad, leaving everything behind, and some other time I will procrastinate. Usawwifu, uajilu, yani at-ta'jil wa taswif, yani procrastination. Procrastination. Wanting to do something but being timid about it, delaying it. Usawwifu, sawfa. Uqaddimu rijlan wa uakhiru ukhra. Sometimes I take one step and I withdraw the other step. I take one leg forward and I take one leg backward. That was why he said in the beginning, At-taraddadu. At-taraddadu. I was going back and forth. لا تصدق لي رغبة في طلب الآخرة بكرة إلا ويحمل عليها جند الشهوة حملة فيفرقها عشيا. بكرة يعني صباحا. Sometimes I may wake up in the morning ورغبتي في طلب الآخرة, and my desire to seek for akhirah. Okay, sometime when I wake up in the morning, my raghba, my desire to leave everything behind and go to akhirah, I have it. Okay, but this raghba and desire, la tusaddiq li, I will not be able to realize it illa wa yahmalu alayha jundu shahwa. Then I wake up in the morning, I decide, mashallah, I want to go out today. I want to leave all these things behind. Then before the realization of this, jundu shahwa yahmalu ala nafsi hamulatan. Jundu shahwa, the soldier of lust for dunya, the material substance, the dunya, yahmilu ala nafsi, we bring to my nafsu again hamulatan, another love of the world. And so my nafsu will leave talabul akhirah ashiyatan, in the night. In the morning I wake up in the love of leaving everything behind and going to the akhirah side. But towards the night, I find myself still in the dunya side. فصارت شهوات الدنيا تجاذبني بسلاسلها إلى المقام. شهوات الدنيا started pushing me to jazibuni. It started pulling me بسلاسلها, with its what we call salasil, handcuff that the police use to tie and arrest the criminals. Salasil, chain, chain, chain. So the shahwatul dunya, the material lusts, material substances, صارت تجاذبني بسلاسلها إلى المقام. So started pulling me towards al-maqam, towards high position. Okay, shahwatul dunya was pulling me towards itself. وَمُنَادِ الْإِيمَانِ يُنَادِي الرَّهِيلُ الرَّهِيلُ. And the Iman side, the caller of Iman also was calling me Ar-Rahil, Ar-Rahil. It's better for you to live now. It's better for you to live now. It's better to leave all these things behind and go out. Are we here? Shahwatu dunya tujazibuni ila maqami wa munadi al-imani yunadini ar-rahil ar-rahil al-mugadaratu al-mugadara. Dunya was pulling me towards dunya. Then the akhirah was calling me towards akhirah. فَلَمْ يَبُقَ مِنَ الْأُمُرِ إِلَّا الْقَلِيلِ. My spiritual self, Munadil Iman, Al-Akhirah, was calling me and saying, لَمْ يَبُقَ مِنَ الْأُمُرِ إِلَّا الْقَلِيلِ. You are going to die soon. You have only little, only some while to live. وَبَيْنَ يَدَيْكَ السَّفَرُ الطَّوِيلِ, and you still have a long way to go after dunya. فَلَمْ أَزَلْ أَتَرَدَّدُ بَيْنَ تَجَاذُبِ الشَّهْوَاتِ الدُّنْيَا وَدَوَاءِ الْآخِرَةِ قريبا من 6 أشهر أولها رجب سنة. Okay, so this is why he says this. This is the reason why he concluded with this statement. فَلَمْ أَزَلْ أَتَرَدَّدْ بَيْنَ تَجَاذُبِ الشَّهْوَاتِ الدُّنْيَا وَدَوَاءِ الْآخِرَةِ. I was in between, I was confused in between the pulling of the material substance, with the pulling of the dunya and the color of the akhirah. This went on for about 6 months, starting from Rajab. Are we here? So وهكذا جرب الإمام الغزالي قبل أنزلته الدنيا بما فيها. So that was how Imam al-Ghazali tried the dunya, okay, before isolating and depriving himself min zinatil hayat wa bahrajiha wal mal wal jahi wal manasil al ulya wal tabahi wal tafakhur. So that was how he left everything behind. Okay. فأدرك حقيقتها وآلامها ومشاكلها وشهواتها. Imam al-Ghazali, in his book, he says, for you to be a zahid, for you to engage in zuhdi, you have to know first what is dunya. If you don't know what is dunya, it will be impossible for you to run from dunya, to avoid dunya. You don't know dunya. So how do you avoid dunya? You don't know money. You don't know what is money, what is property, what is asset, what is dunya, what is material substance. You don't know what it is. You don't know what it means to be rich, to be superfluously rich, to be wealthy, to be important. You don't know what it is. Then you are calling yourself a zuhdi. No, that is not a good zuhdi. A good zuhdi is from someone who already knew what it means to be rich, to have a lot, to have material substance, was rich, was famous, was important, and he left all of them behind for Allah's sake. That is what we call true Sufi, Zuhdi. But you are poor. You don't know, you don't have anything. You are not rich. Then you say you are Zuhdi. Of course, you don't have any other option. That is why you are Zuhdi. So Imam al-Ghazali, adraka haqiqat al-hayat. He saw the real life. He witnessed the real life. He lived a fantastic life. Wa alamaha. He also witnessed the harm, the difficulties of life, the pains. He witnessed the pains of life. Wa mashakilaha. He witnessed the troubles of life. Wa shahawatiha. He witnessed the lust, the wanting, the searching, the evil search of wealth. He witnessed it. Huluwaha wa murraha. He tasted both sides of life, both sweet and sour. He understood everything. He knew life before he left life. وَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُ أَنَّ كُلَّ ذَلِكَ لَا يُسْعِدُ الْإِنسَانَ. So he understood that all this, everything, لَا يُسْعِدُ الْإِنسَانَ, cannot make man happy, cannot give happiness. All this cannot give happiness. وَلَا يُوَفِّرُ لَهُ الْإِطْمِئْنَانُ وَالْإِسْتِقْرَارُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَمَعْرِفَتِهِ عَلَى الْوَجْهِ الصَّحِيحِ. All this around us, they are all distractions. They are things that لَا يُوَفِّرُ لَهُ الْإِطْمِئْنَانُ. They are not going to give people peace of mind. They are not going to make people to become settled with Allah. They are not going to make people to know God ala al-wajhi sahih, in a proper way. هو قطع كل علائق الدنيا عن القلب. So what is zuhud? Zuhud is قطع كل علائق الدنيا عن القلب. Removing all material connections from our mind. ليستطيع تقبل الأنوار الإلهية, so that we will be able to receive al-anwar al-ilahiyya, the divine light, so that we will leaving all material substances from our heart, so that we will be able to receive divine light, divine guidance. فقرر الانعزال والانزواء وترك الدنيا بما فيها وراء ظهره والإقبال بكنه الهمة على الله تعالى. So قرر Imam Al-Ghazali decided al-in'izal, isolation, al-inziwahi, seclusion, wa tarka dunya, leaving everything in dunya, bima fiha, wa ra'a zarihi, behind him. He decided leaving everything behind him. Wal-ikbal bikunihi al-himma ala Allah ta'ala. So he decided with all his mind, with all his attempts, he decided to focus towards Allah. Itharon lilibaki al-fani, by choosing what is everlasting over what will finish. Waqtara ma huwa al-afdal, he chose the best. And what is that best? What is the best? Wa huwa al-aishu fi rihabillah. لا يشغله عنه شيء لا مال ولا جاه. So he chose the best for himself, and that best was al-aishu fi rihabillah, living in the presence of Allah, in the house of Allah, where nothing will distract him. لا يشغله عنه شيء لا يشغله عن الله شيء, where nothing would distract him from Allah. لا مال ولا جاه, not any material substance and not any popularity. So that was Imam Al-Ghazali. Now, after all this, when he had trained himself, you remember when he was going out of Baghdad, he looked back, iltafata, okay, talattafa. So he looked back to see Baghdad for the last time, with intention of never to go back there. But again, something happened when he was sure of himself. So he, when he was going back to his town, his hometown, Tus. He was born in Tus, in Bilad al-Farisi. So on his way, there's no way he could go to Tus without passing through Baghdad. So while returning back to Tus, he passed through Baghdad. Okay, and what happened? Okay, بقي الإمام الغزالي على تلك الحالة من العزلة. So Imam Al-Ghazali remained on that isolation. ومجاهدة النفس, مجاهدة النفس يعني رياضة النفس. Okay, and self-training. وتكليفها المشاقة في سبيل العبادة والأعمال الصالحة, and training himself, okay, strongly, okay, through ibadah and righteous deed and writing of books. متخذا من دمشق مقرا له. Okay, so he was in Damascus. Okay, he chose and preferred Damascus as a place, as a settlement, okay, until year 499. Remember, he arrived in Damascus in the year 489. So he left until end of 499. وفي أواخر هذه السنة, towards the end of 499, توجه عائدا إلى موطنه خراسان. Okay, so he decided to return to his hometown, Mautinihi. Mautinihi, it's taken from Watani. Watanihi, Mautinihi, the place where he was born. So he decided going back to Khorasan. Okay, so while going to Khorasan, Marra awalan bi Madinati Baghdad. So he passed through Baghdad. Walam yakum biha kathiran. He did not stay long there. Wa innama makatha fatratan wajiza. He only stayed there briefly, shortly, for short time. Wa aqada biha majlisan lilwans. Okay, during that short time, so he established a seat in a circle for once, for admonition, for talking to people. Okay, so the purpose was to introduce his book, Ihya Ulumuddin, with them, with the scholars there. He wahadatha bi kitabihi al-Ihya. So he introduced his Ihya Ulumuddin to people. ثم غادر بغداد عائدا إلى وطنه ومسكت رأسه مدينة توس. So then after that, he left Baghdad to Khurasan and Masjid Ra'sihi and to his birthplace. Masjid Ra'sihi, birthplace. That is Masjid Ras, the place where his head just first touched down. Okay, that is why in one hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he conquered Medina and he became Islam started spreading, and he was yearning to return to Mecca. Okay, people were asking him, why you want to go to Mecca, and we take care of you here. We are your people. We have become your people. So Medina is your home now, so, and also the hometown of your mother. Why do you want to go to Mecca? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Awwalu turabin massathu al-jildu la yunsa. Awwalu turabin massathu al-jildu la yunsa." The first soil, the first place where your skin touched, okay, meaning your birthplace, you cannot forget it. You cannot forget your birthplace. Okay, even if we live in Kuala Lumpur, we live in the city, we still want to go back to our compound during the Hari Raya. Why do we want to go back? We have a lot of things in the city that we want to enjoy, we want to see. There's nothing in the compound much. Okay, the Twin Tower is not in the compound. Many things are not there. But why do we want to go there? Because it is awwalu turabin massathu al-jildu. It is our birthplace. We don't forget our birthplace. And people do everything in order to protect their birthplace. Okay, that was the same thing the Prophet ﷺ did and wanted to do. Okay, so in the case of Imam Al-Ghazali, he left Baghdad after staying there for a short while, returning from Damascus. So he left for his hometown, Medina to Tus. Okay. وبها حتى الرحال وألقى عصا السيارة وملازما منزله. So biha, at Medina to Tus, his hometown, حتى الرحال. الرحال هنا السفر. حتى يعني انتهى السفر. So here, when he arrived at Tus, he stopped traveling about. He stopped moving to anywhere. وَأَلْقَى عَصَا السِّيَارَةِ. He threw out the staff of migration, meaning to say he ended his migration about, his traveling. مُلَازِمًا مَنْزِلَهُ. So he remained in his house. Okay. مُشْتَغِلًا كَعَادَتِهِ بِالْعِبَادَةِ وَالتَّعْلِيمِ. Okay, so he continued his normal life that he used to live in Damascus. So the normal life of ibadah and talif kitaba, okay, writing, okay. Muhafizun ala al-waqti ila an kallafahu fakhrul mulki bitadris fi nizamiyya Nisabur. So he was guiding the time of salawat, a lot of things to do with ibadat. Okay, so he was doing that and busy with that until when Fakhrul Muliku again kallafahu bitadris, requested him again to teach at Nizamiya in Nisabur, not in Baghdad, Nisabur. Okay, so that was in the Lekeda of 499. The same year he returned to Tus. فتكون المدة منذ مغادرته نظامية بغداد إلى معاودته تدريس نظامية نصابة 11 سنة. So the duration between leaving Madrasa Nizamiya in Baghdad and teaching again in Madrasa Nizamiya of Nesabon, so the duration between them is 11 years. Okay. So that means he left teaching for 11 years. معاودته للتدريس في نظامية. So بعد التجارب التي مر بها الإمام الغزالي من جاه الدنيا وزينتها إلى العزلة والتقشف ورياضة النفس ومجاهدتها حتى بلغ المرتبة التي اطمأن إليها من الصفاء والسعادة ومعرفة مكائد الشيطان وعيوب النفس حيث حققت العزلة هدفها. Okay, after all the experiences that Imam Al-Ghazali passed through, بعد التجارب experiences. Okay, after all the experiences of Al-Ghazali, he experienced Jahid Dunya wa Zinataha, enjoying the life, between enjoying life and al-uzla, and isolation, training self-education. So after all these experiences, Al-Ghazali reached and arrived at a position and condition and situation التي اطمأن إليها, when he was very sure of as-safa, purification of heart, was sa'ada, and he became happy within himself, when he was sure that he understood maka'id shaitan, the treacheries of shaitan, wa uyub nafsi, when he had studied the uyub nafsi or afatun nafs, the evil of the self, the ego. Okay, so at this time, the isolation and seclusion has been able to achieve its purpose. After achieving the purpose, قرر العودة إلى الوطن والقيام بتعليم الناس. So after that now the intention has now become pure for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he decided to go back to the people, to the country, to the city. وَالْقِيَامِ بِتَعْلِيمِ النَّاسِ, and he started teaching people voluntarily for the sake of Allah, لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ. وَإِفَادَةِ الْعِلْمِ, he started benefiting people, giving people knowledge. وَلَا سِيَّمَا وَقَدْ شَعِرَ بِحَاجَةِ النَّاسِ لِمَاسَةِ إِلَى ذَلِكَ, because he understood that people were in need of that. فَقَدْ جَاءَهُ الْوَزِيرُ فَخْرُ الْمُلْكِ ابْنُ نِظَامِ الْمُلْكِ So the Fakhr al-Maliki, who was the child of Nizam al-Maliki of Baghdad, came to him وَأَلَحَّ عَلَيْهِ غَايَةَ الْإِلْهَاءِ, and he implored him, he begged him, he encouraged him أَنْ يَقْبَلَ بِتَعْيِينِهِ لَهُ, that he should please accept his choice, he should please accept his ta'yin, his offer, بِالْقِيَامِ بِالتَّدْرِيسِ, to teach at Nizamiya Nisabur, at the Nizamiya school at Nisabur. You see, the king went to beg him to apply, that please come and teach. Those are the people that had knowledge. They didn't project and produce themselves for teaching. Teaching is a very dangerous position and profession, we should know. Because people will always pick your words and your actions. Nowadays, the reverse is the case. We don't know anything, we want to teach. People at that time, they knew a lot of things, they want to preserve themselves. Not arrogant. Not nowadays, we don't know anything, we want to be proud of our knowledge of things. So, Imam Al-Ghazali, the Fakhr al-Mulku continued begging him, imploring him, ila an istajaba, until Imam Al-Ghazali accepted to teach. Fantaqala ila Nisabur fi shahri dhil-qa'dah sana 499. So he moved to Nisabur to teach at Nizamiya Nisabur at in Dhil-Qa'dah of 499. وهناك قام بالتدريس في المدرسة النظامية, to teach at the Nizamiya school in Nisabur. وها هو يروي قصة عودته إلى التدريس في كتابه المنقذ من الضلال. In his book Al-Munqidh min al-Dalal, he narrates his return to teaching, the reason. Okay. اتفق في شهور سنة 499 أن كلفت بعد أن أزلت ولازمت الزاوية 12 سنة بالذهاب إلى نيسابور للتعليم. In the month of 499, that is in the year 499, it happened that اتفق يعني حدث أن كلفت. It happened that I was implored, I was saddled, I was given, I was forced after my isolation, after my seclusion. Okay, after spending 12 years, okay, after spending 12 years in Zawiya, in seclusion, so after that I decided to go back to Naisabo for teaching again. وَنَشْرُ Sharia, to spread Sharia, لِمَا حَصَلَ مِنَ الرُّكُودِ وَالْفُتُورِ فِي مَجَالِ الْعِلْمِ وَنَشْرِهِ. Because at that time, a lot of stagnancy, ignorance, and spread among the people. Within these 12 years that I was in seclusion, many irrational behaviors are spread among scholars. وقام بتأييد ذلك لأعزاء المخلصون. So he started supporting and training ذلك لأعزاء المخلصون, okay, great people who are sincere, وَأَلَحُّ عَلَيَّ فِي ذَلِكَ, okay, and people insisted that I accepted the teaching. وَأَصَلَتْ لِيَ الْإِشَارَةُ الرَّبَانِيَّةُ فِي الْيَقْظَةِ وَالْمَنَامِ. I refused to take that position, but إِشَارَةُ الرَّبَانِيَّةُ, divine signal, divine guidance, but I received divine guidance, the guidance of Allah, fil yaqzat wal manam, both when I was awaking and when I was sleeping. Allah directed me to accept the position. أن ذلك بداية خير وسبب لإحياء العلم والشريعة. So Allah showed me that my acceptance to that will be the beginning of good things and revival of knowledge and Sharia for people. That was the reason why I accepted. وأدرك الغزالي بعد كثير من الناس عن الدين. So it was only then that Imam Al-Ghazali realized that a lot of people have been distanced. They have went away from religion. وأن الحاجة ماسة إلى عودته إلى القيام بالتعليم. So he understood that it was time, that it was necessary for him to go back to teaching. Then he decided to go back to teaching in Nizamiya. ويقول أيضا, he said, فلما رأيت أصنافا من الخلق بلغ بهم الضعف في الإيمان إلى هذا الحد. So when I saw a lot of people, various categories of people, بلغ بهم الضعف في الإيمان, who have been so weak in their iman to that extent. When I saw this, in قدح في نفسي أن ذلك متعين علي في هذا الوقت المهتم. So I thought, I realized in myself that it was necessary and imperative for me, it was time for me to go back to Tadris. وقلت في نفسي ماذا تغنيك الخلوة والعزلة. Then I said to myself was talking to me, my soul was talking to me. ماذا تغنيك الخلوة والعزلة. What are you going to gain from seclusion and isolation? وَقَدْ أَمَّ الدَّاءُ. And there's a lot of disease. What is this da? Ignorance. There is a lot of ignorance among people. وَمَرَضُ الْأَتِبَاهُ. Even the medics, the physicians that are supposed to treat people, they are also sick. Yani al-ulama'u, the scholars that are supposed to guide people, they are also ignorant. So what are you going to gain from uzla and khalwa? وَأَشْرَفَ الْخَلْقِ عَلَى الْحَلَاكِ. And people were almost going to destruction. So what are you going to gain? Go back to teaching. Teach people. Guide people. So that was why I went back to teach. Okay? Al-Awdatu ila Tus. So then after teaching again in Nesabor, he again went back to Tus in the year 500. Okay? Al-Awdatu ila Tus. وقد استمر الغزالي على التدريس في نظامية نيسابور قرابة سنة. Okay? So he was teaching in Nizamiya in Nizabur, okay, for about 1 year. That was for almost until 500 Hijri. ثم ترك التدريس بنيسابور. Then after that, it was not convenient. So he had to go back to Nisabur. He left Nisabur. وعاد إلى بلده Tus. So he went back to Tus. وألقى بها أسطس. And finally, he decided never to go anywhere again. واتخذ بجوار منزله مدرسة لطلبة العلم. So instead, he established a school. Okay, he established a school beside his house. وأقبل الناس على الأخذ عنه كما كانوا. People came to study with him the same way they used to do before. ووزع أوقاته على الحاضرين عنده. Okay, so he divided his time, okay, for people. Sometimes he used his pen in tadris, okay, في شتى الفنون العلمية. Okay, so he divided his time between teaching in various areas of knowledge and teaching recitation of Quran and so on and so forth. Okay, بحيث لا تخلو لحظة من لحظاته. So he was so busy that there was no single minute or time or moment in his time that he was free. Okay, so وما ما كان الإمام الغزالي يقوم به من نشر العلم كان أيضا يقوم بأعباء الدعوة. So at the same time that Imam Al-Ghazali was teaching people, at the same time he was also busy with dawah. ويواجه ولاة الأمر والحكام بالموعظة والنصيحة. So he was talking seriously to people in authority, to the government, okay, giving them wazi, giving them nasiha, guidance, وَيُنْكِرُ عَلَيْهِمْ, okay, and he was warning them of what they were doing was bad. وَيَكْتُبُ إِلَيْهِمْ بِذَلِكَ, he wrote to a lot of them. وَيُرْدِعُهُمْ عَنِ الظُّلْمِ وَمُخَالَفَةِ الشَّرْعِ الشَّرِيفِ. So he warns them sternly to avoid oppression of people and to avoid going against the Sharia. وقد عاش الإمام الغزالي أثناء حكم السلاجقة الأتراك الذين حكموا أكثر مناطق العالم الإسلامي في القرن الخامس العشر هجري. So he lived in the 5th century of Hijrah. Okay, and okay, والمدرسة النظامية ببغداد تعد بمثابة جامعة بناها الوزير نظام الملك السلجوقي. So the Madrasa Nizamiya was considered a jamia, let's say a university that was built by Nizam al-Mulki. Okay, لتكون في دار الخلافة مصدر إشاء للعلم والمعارفة. Okay, so that was used as a place of knowledge. ومنبعا للفضل وماوى للأئمة العلماء, and a gathering place for the scholars and the fuqaha. ومقصدا لطلاب العلم, and that was the intent of all, the gathering of all students of knowledge. All right, تعرض الإمام الغزالي للأذى الأساد والأعداء. Okay, because he was famous, he was afflicted with al-ain and hatred. لقد أنا الإمام الغزالي الكثير من أذى الأساد والأعداء وكيدهم. So he experienced a lot of harm, a lot of difficulty from evil of people, from hazard, hatred, okay, enmity. They planned a lot of things against him. وقد وشوا به عند سلطان السنجر أجبره على الهدور من توس إلى المعسكر بنيسابور. Okay, so they caused a lot of trouble or misunderstandings between him and Sultan Senjar, okay, until that one had to force him to present himself at Nisabur. وَلَمَّا فَشَلَ كَيْدُهُمْ, when their plan was not successful, خَابَتْ حِيلَتُهُمْ, their plan for him was failed. أَمَدُوا إِلَى كُتُبِهِ, so they resorted to DUSU fiha, to pollute his writings. Okay, they added some additions that that was not the intention of Al-Ghazali, so they added it into his book. Okay, وَهَا هُوَ حُجَّةُ الْإِسْلَامِ يَحْدُثُ عَنْ ذَلِكَ. So Imam Al-Ghazali says, لما استجبت الدعوة, when I accepted to teach again in Nesabur, واستمر عمل التدريس ناشطا, and I continued teaching at Nesabur, أخذ طلاب العلم يفدون من نواحي العالم. So people started coming from every part of the world. So then when people saw that Haja Asadul Husad, people started their hatred. ولم يجدوا أي طعن مقبول غير أنهم لبثوا الحق بالباطل. So they did not see anywhere to catch me unless to pollute my writings. وغيروا كل ما في كتابي المنقذ من الضلال. So they changed, they interpolated everything in my book Al-Munqidh min ad-Dalal. They also interpolated my book Mishkatul Anwar. وأدخلوا فيها كلمات كفر. So they put in them things that were blasphemous. وأرسلوا الكتابين إلي لأكتب عليهما الإجازة. And they sent those books to me so that I could write ijaza for them on it, meaning to write my commentary. فَأَلْهَمَنِيَ اللَّهُ. So Allah inspired me. فَتَصَفَّحْتُهُمَا. I had to read those two books again. فَطَّلَعْتُ عَلَى تَلْبِسِهِمْ. Then I understood their corruption, their interpolations. وَطَّلَعَ عَلَى ذَلِكَ أَيْضًا حَاكِمُ خُرَاسَانَ. And a chief judge in Khurasan also saw that. فَأَمَرَ بِحَبْسِ الْمُزَوِّرُ. So then he ordered for the arrest of the interpolator, ثُمَّ نَفَاهُ مِنْ نِسَابُرَ, and sent him on exile from Nisabur. Okay. كما دسوا أيضا في كتاب المنخول. He also corrupted my book Al-Mankhul. Okay, kalimatun tat'anu fil Imam Abi Hanifa. They wrote in there words that are against and that contradict Abu Hanifa. Okay, so those are the challenges. Shuyukh al-Imam al-Ghazali, and we mentioned some before. We're going to mention some of them now. We have Ustaduhu Sheikh Ahmad al-Razakani. Then after that, he went to Jurijan to study with Ismail ibn Mus'ida. After that, he went to Ustadat al-Akbar bin Nisabur, Imam al-Haramin, Abul Mu'ali, Abdul Malik al-Juwaini, Imam al-Juwaini, okay. وجد عنده واجتهد فأعجب الأستاذ بتلميذه وأحبه واحترمه واستمر معه يأخذ عنه كل العلوم ولا سيما الفقه. So he studied with Imam al-Juwaini, fiqh, usulihi, and a lot of things. After the death of Imam al-Haramain al-Juwaini, okay, who was the greatest sheikh of al-Ghazali, له الدور الأكبر في تعليم الغزالي وتدريبه في مختلف العلوم المناظرة فيها فقد أذن له في حياته. So during the life of Imam Juwaini, he allowed Imam al-Ghazali أن يجلس على كرسيه, to sit on his chair, ليدرس الطلبة, to teach people how يعيد درس الإمام عليهم. وأخذ الحديث عن محمد الحفصي المزوري. So he studied hadith from Sheikh Muhammad al-Hafsi, okay, and from al-Hakim Nasr al-Hakimi, from Abdullah al-Khawari, also, and also from Muhammad ibn Yahya al-Zuzuni, and also from Sheikh Nasruddin Ibrahim al-Maqdisi. Okay, the students of Al-Ghazali were many. They were in thousands and more than thousands, but we're just going to mention some. Okay, so it is not easy to mention all the students of Imam al-Ghazali. Okay, يقول الغزالي قد مر علي أكثر من 1000 طالب. I have trained over thousands of students. Okay, so by this we're going to mention just but few. Okay, one of them is Al-Qadi Abu Bakr ibn Arabi. Okay, and another one Ibrahim ibn Mazhar al-Jurjani as-Sibak. Another one is Qadi Abu Nasr al-Buni, Abul Fatih Ahmad, and so on and so forth to the end of that. So مؤلفاته عد الإمام الغزالي من العلماء المكثرين في مجال التأليف. So he wrote a lot of books. وقد بارك الله في عمره ووقته وعلمه فألف كتبا كثيرا في مختلف العلوم والفنون باللغة العربية وباللغة الفارسية. He wrote a lot of books in many disciplines using Arabic language and Persian language. وذكروا أنهم حسوا الكتب التي ألفها. So some people, historians, they said that they counted the books that Imam Al-Ghazali wrote and wrote by himself during his life. فَخَصَّ كُلَّ يَوْمٍ أَرْبَعَةَ كَرَارِيسِ. Each day he used to write 4 exercise books, 4 notebooks. وَذَلِكَ مِنْ بَرَكَةِ الْأُمُرِ التي يمنعها الله لمن شاء من عباده وقد ترجم كثيرا من كتبهم إلى اللغات الأجنبية. So many of his books have been translated into foreign languages. Ihya Ulumuddin has been translated into Malay language. This one also, Bidayatul Hidayah, is also translated into Malay language. And also Al-Manhul has also been translated into Malay language and also English and so on. Okay, so some of it is Al-Wasit, Wal-Basit, Wal-Wajiz, Wal-Manhul, Shifa ul-Ghalil, Tahdhib ul-Usul, Mustasfa min Ilm al-Usul, Ihya Ulumuddin, Minhaj al-Habidin, Munqiz min ad-Dalal, Tahafut al-Falasifa, Bidayat al-Hidayah, Al-Maqsad al-Hasna, Al-Radd ala al-Batiniyya, wa ghayriha. So, tawadu'uhu ما بلغه الإمام الغزالي من سعة العلم وكثرة المصنفات, with all things that he has, all that he has achieved, وما حصل به وبكتبه من عظيم النفع وقد كان عظيم التواضع. He was greatly respected and an humble person. شأنه في ذلك شأن العلماء الذين هم كالأشجار المثمرة. So he was just like all other scholars who were like fruitful trees under which we have a lot of people. كلما زالت ثمارها زاد انحناؤها. وقد قال ابن سمعاني قرأت في كتب كتبه الغزالي إلى أبي هامي أحمد بن سلامة بن مواصل فقال في خلال فصوله أما الواز فلا أرى نفسي أهلا له. Regarding to what giving words to people, لا أرى نفسي أهلا له. I'm not a wise. لأن الوازة زكاة نصابه الإتيان, because giving words is a zakat. Okay, the nisab of this zakat is al-ittinas, using the words by myself. ومن لا نصاب له, the one who does not have what to make zakat, كيف يخرج الزكاة? How can he give zakat? وفاق الثوب وفاقد الثوب وفاقد الثوب كيف يستر غيره? The one who is naked, who has no clothes, كيف يستر غيره? How can he clothe the other? ومتى يستقيم الظل والعود أعوج? How can the shadow of a tree be straight when the tree itself is crooked? So that was Imam Al-Ghazali, and this is where we are going to stop, okay, for today. So we have spent more than 9 minutes more than the time, okay, and so just the Khatima, let's read the Khatima, is okay. وقد اتفق جمهور المترجمين للغزالي على إمامته. A lot of those people who wrote his biography, they believe and always write that he was an imam. وانطلقت الألسن بالثناء عليه وشهد له المخالف والموافق بالتقدم والكمال كما شهد العلماء من مؤثريه بفضله وتمكنه. Okay, a lot of people in his scholars who are his contemporaries, they also realize this place. لم تر العيون مثله بيانا ومنطقا وذكاء وطبعا فهو أنظر أهل زمانه. He was the greatest and the most populous of his time. وأوحد أقرانه. He was one of his time. لقد داع صيته في الآفاق. His voice was heard. وأعجب الجميع بتدريسه ومناظرته. He surprised a lot of people with his teaching and his debate. وصار بعد إمامة خراسان إمام العراق. Okay, he was both Imam of Khurasan and Imam of Iraq. وهو مجدد القرن الخامس الهجري. He was the reviver of the 5th century of Hijrah. وقد قال صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الله يبعث لهذه الأمة على رأس كل 100 سنة من يجدد لها أمر دينها. The Prophet ﷺ says at every year, every 100 years, every century, Allah is going to raise one person from the Ummah to renew their affair for them. فَكَانَ فِي الْمِئَةِ الْأُولَى, in the first 100 years, it was Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. In the second, it was Imam Al-Shafi'I. In the third, it was Al-Ash'ari. In the fourth, it was Isfaraini. And in the fifth, it was Hujjatul Islam, Imam Al-Ghazali. Okay. قال السيوطي ليس في كونه مجددا تردد وما زال الإمام الغزالي طيلة عمره المبارك علما يهتدى به ينشر العلوم ويفتي ويؤلف ويرشد ويقارئ المبتدع من الفرق الضالة إلى أن توفاه الله بمسقط رأسه بمدينة توس. He was doing all that and giving fatwa, writing books, guiding people, and attacking the innovators until when he died in his birthplace in Medina Tus on Monday, the 14th of Jumad al-Akhirah in the year 505 Hijrah. Rahimahullahu wa radiya anhu wa ardahu wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallama walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. So this is the end of the biography of Imam Al-Ghazali. Inshallah, wa huna nakifu li muhadaratina al-yawm hatta naltaki fi usbu' al-madi inshallah. أستودعكم ونفسي في رعاية الله الذي لا يضيع ودائعه ونكتفي بهذا وبالله التوفيق والهداية والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
شكرا سعد.
شكرا كثيرا سعد.
الشكر لله. Okay. So, inshallah, we're going to start from page 59. Next week class, inshallah. شكرا لله.
Ustaz,
الشكر لله. Thank you all.
just to remind back about the presentation, we do not have live presentation at class, isn't it?
No, because you just have to translate. Okay, you translate and you submit the Word version of the translation. Okay, then the presentation, you just make it recording among yourself and submit it together. So no need for live presentation.
Oh, so we have to send video.
Yeah, you have to send video.
Oh, and also we have to provide our slide.
Slide, yeah, slide presentation.
Oh, okay. Okay, shukran, Ustaz.
Shukru lillah. Thank you. الله سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نستغفرك اللهم ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك عبدك ورسولك حقا وصدقا.
Allah. Allah.